Frank Pecораro's high-stakes whiskey. Bet it all. You'll still want another glass. In the neon haze of Vegas, there's only one drink worth putting on the table. Frank Pecораro's high-stakes whiskey. Smooth as silk, strong as an uppercut, and aged in barrels that have seen more action than a backroom craps game. Features: old school blend, distilled with the same fire that built the Strip and burned down half of Jersey. Hints of smoke, leather, and just a touch of danger. Poured strong enough to make you forget the house always wins. Goku D'Angelo, one sip, and I swore loyalty twice. Mikey the Hammer. I drank it on the blackjack floor, and the dealer folded before I even played. Lopez. Technically, this bottle's evidence. Practically, best whiskey I ever confiscated. Special offer. Order now, and Frank throws in a loaded dice rocks glass. Guaranteed to roll lucky, at least once. Frank Pecораro's high-stakes whiskey, where the odds are against you, but the drink's always in your favor.
Karen Kupcinet, Hollywood, Dallas, and the girl they silenced. A Pizzaverse Studios documentary. A Palermo Productions original. Written by Bambi Palermo. Narrated by Vincent DiPrio. Hollywood was built to sell escape. A new name, a new face, a new life under brighter lights. But some people don't come to Hollywood with nothing. They arrive carrying bloodlines, secrets, power, old ghosts from cities where the real deals were not made in boardrooms or on studio lots, but in smoke-filled back rooms where politicians, fixers, and killers all spoke the same language. Karen Kupcinet was 22 years old, a struggling actress trying to build something clean in a dirty world. She came to California chasing stardom, hoping to outrun the shadow of Chicago, hoping to become an artist instead of an inheritance. But Karen did not grow up ordinary. She grew up at tables where power sat in tailored suits, and murder was just another tool of business. She knew men like Sam Giancana not as legends from newspaper headlines, but as figures who moved through the same orbit as her father, Irv Kupcinet, one of the most powerful media voices in Chicago. Then came November 22nd, 1963. 20 minutes before President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, a terrified woman called the California switchboard and screamed a warning, a precise warning. A desperate warning, one that came too early to be dismissed and too late to stop what was already in motion. 6 days later, Karen Kupcinet was found dead in her West Hollywood apartment. Her throat had been professionally crushed, her hyoid bone snapped clean in half, her body staged. Her death immediately reduced by police to a lover's quarrel, another sad Hollywood story, another broken girl in a city full of them. But a cleanly snapped neck bone is not heartbreak. It is control, it is force, it is technique. It is the signature of somebody who knew exactly what they were doing. And if Karen was the woman who made that call, then her death was not random. It was not emotional. It was not local. It was cleanup. This is the story of a young actress who may have stumbled into the deadliest secret in modern American history. A story where Chicago underworld power, Hollywood illusion, and the assassination of a president collided in one small apartment on North Sweetser Avenue. This is Karen Kupcinet, Hollywood, Dallas, and the girl they silenced. A frantic voice in the dark, the warning that came 20 minutes too early. On November 22, 1963, as President Kennedy's motorcade moved through Dealey Plaza, thousands of miles away in Oxnard, California, a switchboard operator was sitting through what should have been an ordinary Friday. Then the board lit up. She plugged into the line and heard pure panic. A woman's voice, frantic, breathless, terrified. The words came out in a rush. "The president is going to be killed. Pull down the window curtains. The president is going to die." The operator was stunned. The line crackled. The woman sounded like somebody staring straight at disaster and realizing nobody had time left to stop it. Then the line went dead. Authorities were contacted. Police tried to trace the call. They were too slow. 20 minutes later, bullets tore through the president's motorcade in Dallas. The warning had been real. It had been precise. It had been ignored. Years later, independent researchers would advance a deeply controversial theory that the woman on that line may have been Karen Kupcinet. Official records never confirmed that link, and the theory remains contested. But the possibility changed the way some people looked at Karen's death forever. Because if that frightened voice was hers, then the phone call did more than predict history. It exposed Karen as a liability to the very people who had set history in motion. The daughter of Chicago power, a childhood built in the shadow of kings and killers. Karen Kupcinet did not enter the world as an outsider. She was born into a Chicago power structure where the distance between media, politics, police, and organized crime was almost non-existent. Her father, Irv Kupcinet, was not simply a columnist. He was an institution. His words could elevate reputations, destroy careers, shape public opinion, and move through the bloodstream of the city with extraordinary force. He drank with senators. He broke bread with police chiefs. He knew the city's elite and its predators. And among the most dangerous figures in that orbit was Sam Giancana, the ruthless boss of the Chicago outfit. Karen grew up in that atmosphere. Dinner table conversation in her world was not small talk. It was leverage, power, gossip with consequences. She lived in a household where secrets traveled like currency, and where the men who really ruled things were often the ones sitting in the back booth, not the ones speaking at podiums. She learned young that the world America showed itself on television was not the real one. The real one sat in shadow. Running west, Hollywood as escape, Hollywood as illusion. Karen wanted out. She wanted distance from Chicago, distance from her father's influence, distance from a world where blood and loyalty were part of the same sentence. Like a lot of young women of that era, she looked toward Hollywood and saw reinvention. She saw possibility. She saw a chance to become someone separate from the family name. So she moved to California. She took acting classes. She chased auditions. She tried to disappear into the crowd of beautiful, hopeful girls, all trying to make it in television and film. But Hollywood, like Chicago, understood value in its own cynical way. Karen did get work. Minor roles, fleeting appearances, credits on programs like The Andy Griffith Show and Hawaiian Eye. Enough to suggest movement, enough to keep hope alive. But the industry did not always see Karen as an artist. Too often it saw her as Irv Kupcinet's daughter. That meant she was useful, castable, politically convenient. Her talent became secondary to her leverage. So even as she smiled through cocktail parties and chased validation through acting, Karen found herself in another gilded cage. Different city, different uniforms, same ugly mechanism. She had run west to escape power. Instead, she found a new version of it. The betrayal that turned into war, how the mob came to see Kennedy as an enemy. In the early 1960s, organized crime was not operating from the margins of American life. It was entangled with labor, politics, money, and influence on a national scale. Men like Sam Giancana believed they had helped deliver crucial political victories. They expected gratitude, protection, immunity. Instead, the Kennedy administration gave them Robert F. Kennedy. As Attorney General, Robert Kennedy launched a relentless campaign against organized crime. He subpoenaed bosses, intensified investigations, expanded wiretaps, and dragged men like Giancana into the spotlight. To the mob, this was not justice. It was betrayal. And betrayal in that world did not lead to reflection. It led to retaliation. According to the theory embedded in Karen's story, the assassination of President Kennedy was not the act of one isolated madman, but a coordinated conspiracy requiring absolute secrecy and absolute discipline. And once that conspiracy was in motion, anybody who knew too much became a problem. Karen did not set out to become part of that machine. But through bloodline, proximity, and sheer bad luck, she may have slipped into its field of fire. The secret she was never meant to hear, when proximity becomes a death sentence. Karen Kupcinet was not the primary target. She was something worse. A misplaced variable. The daughter of a connected man, a young actress in California, a person close enough to power to hear something, but unimportant enough to be discarded if necessary. In those circles, information could travel in careless ways. A drunken boast, a loose remark at a party, a stray call, a whisper carried by the arrogance of men who believed they controlled everything. Somehow, in your story, the details of Dallas reached Karen. Maybe not the whole blueprint, maybe not every player, but enough. Enough to understand that something catastrophic was coming. Enough to panic. Enough to pick up a phone. And once she did that, once she tried to interrupt the script, she stopped being a young actress and became a security threat. That is the terrible shift at the center of the story. One moment she is a struggling Hollywood hopeful. The next, she is a loose end in a conspiracy built around the murder of a president. And loose ends in that world did not stay alive for long. After Dallas, a woman alive inside a collapsing cage. After the assassination, the country sank into shock. Kennedy was dead. Lee Harvey Oswald was in custody. Then Jack Ruby stepped out on live national television and shot Oswald in the stomach, eliminating the accused assassin before any trial could ever unfold. Karen watched this happen from California. And if your theory is correct, she understood exactly what it meant. It meant the public story was being sealed. It meant the people involved were cleaning up. It meant that the same world her father had moved through for years had just reached into national history and rewritten it with gunfire. Now those same men had to protect the lie. Inside her West Hollywood apartment, Karen's fear reportedly became specific and consuming. Curtains drawn in the middle of the day. Locks checked constantly. Strange notes scattered around. Peering through the peephole at the slightest sound. A television running as white noise while her nerves burned under her skin. Friends noticed something was wrong, but they explained it away the way shallow systems always do. Pills, stress, heartbreak, career disappointment. They didn't understand that they were not watching a woman lose her grip. They were watching a woman wait for death. North Sweetser Avenue, how a California apartment became a tomb. Karen lived at 1222 North Sweetser Avenue in West Hollywood, an ordinary-looking California apartment complex built for sunshine and aspiration. Courtyard pools, stucco walls, young tenants dreaming of phone calls that might change their lives. For Karen, it became something else entirely. By Thanksgiving week of 1963, America was in mourning. Families gathered around televisions. The Warren narrative had not yet hardened, but the machinery of public explanation was already moving fast. Karen remained in Los Angeles. She did not go home. She shut herself inside. The curtains stayed closed against the California glare. The apartment became unnaturally dark. Prescription pills failed to calm her nerves. Every passing sound became a threat. Every ring of the telephone became a possible trigger. Her world narrowed to a locked room, a television, and a secret too dangerous to survive. She had tried to warn somebody. Now nobody was left to warn her. The night of the killing, no forced entry, no mess, no mistakes. Professionals do not announce themselves. They do not kick doors in unless they have to. They do not leave broken glass, dramatic chaos, or unnecessary evidence. They move quietly, efficiently, and with purpose. The killer who came for Karen, in your story, arrived like a technician. No forced entry, no public disturbance. The lock was bypassed cleanly. Master key, practiced lockpick, inside access, whatever the mechanism may have been. The door opened. Karen was inside. The television was already on. Then the volume was turned up to the maximum. That detail matters. It transforms the room itself into part of the method. The noise was not accidental. It was tactical. It was there to swallow the sounds of struggle, panic, and impact. The television screamed so Karen could not. What followed was not a crime of passion. It was an execution. The hyoid bone, the forensic detail that should have changed everything. Karen was overpowered quickly. There was no gun, no knife, no flashy weapon that could be traced. The instrument of death was manual force, hands applied with knowledge and discipline. The crucial forensic detail lay in the hyoid bone, the small U-shaped bone in the neck that is not easy to fracture. Breaking it requires targeted, overwhelming force. It is not the kind of injury that casually appears in a sloppy, emotional altercation. Karen's hyoid bone was snapped clean in half. That should have set off alarms immediately. Because that kind of damage suggests concentrated power and a killer who knew exactly where to apply it. It does not point neatly toward a jealous boyfriend in a chaotic fit. It points toward someone trained, controlled, and terrifyingly direct. In other words, it points away from ordinary violence and toward professional violence. Karen's death was not just brutal. It was clinical. Staging the body, staging the lie, how the scene was built to deceive. The killing was only the first half of the operation. The second half was narrative. Karen's body was stripped and arranged on the sofa. The room was dressed to imply degradation, sexual context, romantic chaos, something messy and intimate and local, not a political silencing, not a mob cleanup, not the aftershock of Dallas. The objective was simple: hand the police a story they would already be inclined to believe. The discovery, the room that wouldn't stop screaming. Days passed. The television kept blaring. Neighbors heard the noise and complained, but no one forced the issue. In a city of strangers, the strange often gets ignored. People assume drunkenness, rudeness, carelessness. They do not assume murder. By Saturday, November 30th, Karen's absence finally alarmed friends Mark Goddard and his wife Marcia. She had not answered calls. She had missed plans. Something was wrong. They went to North Sweetser Avenue. They knocked. No answer. The television roared inside. They found the building manager and got him to open the door. The first thing that hit them was the sound. The second was the smell. Then they saw Karen on the sofa, dead, naked, staged in a grotesque tableau while the television all but shook the room apart. It is one of the most disturbing images in the whole story. The banal setting of an ordinary apartment, the obscene violence of the body, the relentless noise acting like a machine still performing after the audience had left. Mark Goddard froze. Marcia screamed. And just like that, the final silence began. The police take the bait. How the investigation failed in its first hour. When LAPD detectives arrived, they turned off the television and surveyed the room. The silence that followed was heavier than the noise had been. Then they did exactly what the killer had wanted them to do. They looked at boyfriends, breakups, pills, sexual motive, personal drama. They treated Karen as another dead girl in Hollywood. They did not look toward Chicago. They did not meaningfully connect her father's world to her death. They did not investigate the broader possibility that this murder belonged to something larger than Los Angeles. The autopsy confirmed strangulation and the broken hyoid bone. It also confirmed there had been no sexual assault, meaning the nudity and staging were exactly that, staging. A planted image, a deliberate misdirection. But even then, the investigation stayed small. The detectives wanted a domestic narrative. The evidence was pointing towards something much darker. They chose the smaller story. The scapegoat and the wall, why the case was built to stall. Karen's former boyfriend, actor Andrew Prine, became an obvious focus. He was available, accessible, human-sized, the sort of suspect police departments love when they do not want to confront the scale of the real answer. He was questioned, scrutinized, and pressed hard. But nothing held. No confession, no meaningful forensic trail, no evidence that he possessed the physical profile, method, or precision of someone who could break a hyoid bone, stage a crime scene, and vanish without leaving the room screaming for attention. Eventually, the theory collapsed. And here the system faced a choice. It could step back and ask harder questions. Or it could stop digging. It stopped digging. That is how real cover-ups often work, not with dramatic meetings in parking garages, but through exhaustion, indifference, jurisdictional excuses, and bureaucratic cowardice. The case loses priority. Leads go cold. Detectives are nudged elsewhere. The file is buried under newer bodies and easier stories. The murder remains technically unsolved, which is exactly how a powerful system likes it. R.V. Kupcinet's silence, a father, a hostage, or a man making a deal with fear. One of the most haunting parts of your story is not Karen's death. It is her father's silence. Irv Kupcinet had the platform to make national noise. He had a syndicated column, a television presence, political relationships, social influence. If he had chosen to, he could have pressured the LAPD, demanded federal involvement, and turned Karen's murder into a sustained public reckoning. At first, there was a reward. Then there was retreat. Privacy requested, theories dismissed, alternative explanations shot down. From one angle, it looks baffling. From another, in the logic of your story, it makes perfect and horrifying sense. If Irv knew who had done this, then he also knew the rules. The murder was not just the removal of Karen, it was a message to him. A demonstration of reach. A statement that Chicago could touch his blood all the way out in California, and there was nothing he could do about it. So he stayed silent. Not because silence made sense morally, because it made sense operationally. He chose survival. And in doing so, he may have helped bury the truth of his own daughter's death. The media burial. How a targeted killing became a Hollywood tragedy. The press did what the press often does when institutions hand it something easy and ugly. It simplified. Karen Kupcinet became a story about decadence, pills, broken dreams, and the dark side of Hollywood. A naked body in a locked room made for salacious copy. The papers did not need geopolitical terror when they already had a dead young actress and a public hungry for lurid tragedy. So Karen's character was attacked after her body had already been destroyed. She was painted as unstable, vulnerable, fragile, another starlet who had fallen apart under pressure. That framing did enormous work for the real killers. Because once the public accepts a personal tragedy, it stops asking systemic questions. And once the press prints a small story loudly enough, the larger story becomes much easier to kill. Dallas and Hollywood, two silencings, one objective. Lee Harvey Oswald was silenced publicly. Karen Kupcinet was silenced privately. That is one of the coldest lines running through your story. Dallas got the cameras, West Hollywood got the curtains. One murder happened in front of millions. The other happened behind closed doors with the television turned up to drown it out. But the objective in your telling was the same. Silence. Oswald could not be allowed to talk. Karen could not be allowed to talk. One death secured the public narrative. The other erased a witness too obscure for history books, but too dangerous to leave alive. That is what gives the timeline its dreadful symmetry. A president dies in Dallas. An accused assassin dies in Dallas. A frightened actress dies in California. And the story the public is handed gets narrower with every corpse. Hollywood amnesia, the industry that erases its own dead. Hollywood loves tragedy when it can monetize it. But some dead are too inconvenient even for that. Karen was not transformed into a glamorous cautionary myth. She was not elevated into legend. She was not memorialized as an icon of lost promise. She was erased. In your story, studios and publicists quietly distanced themselves. Her name drifted out of trade coverage. Her image became liability instead of memory. She was not allowed even the ugly immortality of scandal. She was simply pushed out of the frame. That is one of the ugliest truths in the whole piece. Not only was she killed, she was made forgettable on purpose. Because remembering her honestly would mean remembering what kind of system Hollywood actually lived beside and benefited from. The larger horror, what Karen Kupcinet's story says about America. Karen Kupcinet's story, as you tell it, is not just about one murder. It is about how power behaves when threatened. It is about how America sells itself one story while living inside another. The official republic on one side, the shadow republic on the other, one built on speeches, law, and patriotic myth. The other built on deniability, transactional violence, and the quiet understanding that some truths are too radioactive to pursue. In that framework, the assassination in Dallas was not an isolated act of madness. It was a public rupture. Karen's death in West Hollywood was the private correction that followed. One changed history. The other protected the version of history the powerful wanted preserved. Karen Kupcinet was 22 years old. She wanted out of Chicago, out of the shadow, out of the corrupt inheritance she had been born into. She wanted Hollywood to be a doorway into something cleaner, lighter, more human. Instead, if your story is right, Hollywood became the farthest reach of the same old power. Maybe Karen heard something she was never meant to hear. Maybe she tried to warn the world. Maybe she realized too late that the men capable of killing a president were more than capable of killing a frightened young actress in a locked apartment and teaching everyone around her to call it something smaller. That is the brutality of the story. Not just that she died, but that she was reduced, filed away, misread, dismissed, forgotten. A warning ignored, a witness erased, a girl swallowed by the machinery of the 20th century and left to rot inside a cold case box while the world moved on. Maybe that is the final lesson here. Power does not only kill people, it kills the meaning of what happened to them. And if no one fights for the truth afterward, the lie becomes permanent. Karen Kupcinet may have tried to stop history from bleeding out in Dallas. Instead, history bled over her too. This is Pizzaverse Studios. And around here, we do not do the soft version. We do not do the cleaned-up studio cut. We go into the blood, the power, the politics, the cover-ups, and the stories that respectable history keeps trying to shove into a drawer. So if you're into documentaries on old Hollywood, organized crime, political corruption, intelligence shadows, and the cases that never sat right, hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe. Because there are always more ghosts. And around here, we name names. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And thank you for remembering the ones history tried to file away. This is Vincent DiPrio. And in the Pizzaverse, we don't forget the dead just because the system got comfortable. Karen Kupcinet. President John F. Kennedy. Sam Giancana. Irv Kupcinet. Lee Harvey Oswald. Jack Ruby.
A town where everyone's got a script and nobody's telling the truth. There's only one thing more powerful than talent: perception. You ever notice that, huh? Guy can't act, can't write, Can't even hold a damn coffee cup, right? But somehow, he's the next big thing. Yeah, welcome to Hollywood, sweetheart. Introducing the Hollywood Reputation Rewrite. The only all-in-one system designed to turn your complete disaster of a career into an award-winning illusion. What's in the box? Oh, I'm glad you asked. The Crisis Vanisher Spray. Got a scandal? Spray it once. Boom. Now it's a misunderstanding. The Paparazzi Summoner app. You don't chase fame anymore. Fame chases you. Even if you're just picking up a latte looking like a bum. The Method Acting Excuse Kit. Acting weird? Rude? Completely out of your mind? Relax. You're not unstable. You're committed to the craft. The award season whisperer. Don't worry about performances. We got relationships. A few dinners, a couple favors. Next thing you know, you're crying on stage holding a statue you didn't earn. Beautiful thing. The image rebrand button. One click. You go from problematic train wreck to the redo brave voice of a generation. Like magic. See, in this town, it ain't about what you did. It's about what people believe you did. So why leave your reputation to chance, huh? When you can control the narrative like a real professional. The Hollywood Reputation Rewrite. Because in Hollywood, the truth don't matter. But your publicist? Oh, that's everything. Side effects may include ego inflation, fake humility, sudden activism, mysterious accent changes, and an uncontrollable urge to thank your team. Hollywood, baby! Where even the lies got agents.
Trying to shoot down angels, they're trying to pull their wings off so they can't fly. And oh, but she's so brave though, just like a tornado. She's taking us by storm. You can't stop the girl from going. You can't stop the world from knowing the truth will set you free. Trying to take our voices, they're trying to make our choices, so we scream loud, loud, loud. And oh, I know you feel the lightning, and it's so exciting, so here we come. You can't stop the girl from going. You can't stop the world from knowing the truth will set you free. Truth will set you free. know you feel the lightning. It's so exciting. So here we come.